Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today. We are looking at how to leverage generative AI and data analysis to maximize your knowledge management impact. I'm Caroline Hill, I'm the editor-in-chief of Legal IT Insider, and today I'll be talking with Lexsoft's CEO, Carlos García-Egocheaga. Carlos, you said I would kill it! Oh. Carlos from Lexsoft, who you all know, who I assured I would get his name absolutely spot on. And also Morgan Lewis and Bockius' Senior Knowledge Solutions Product Analyst, Samantha Sumilang Ventrella. And we're going to be looking at the ways in which law firms can leverage generative AI and data analysis to improve and speed up the KM process. The format is going to be fun. So Carlos is demoing, I'm going to come on to introductions, but Carlos is going to be demoing Lexsoft's new SaaS and GenAI knowledge management products, T3 SaaS and T3 GenAI. I like the fact that those are very simple. He's demoing them to Samantha, who is going to be asking questions. So Samantha's doing some of my job. During the demonstration, I'll have questions as well. What would be fantastic is if everybody here can, as you're listening to the demo, be posting your own questions in the chat, because part of my job today is going to be to make sure that I make sure your questions get to Carlos or Sam, actually, because obviously the amazing thing about having a client on board is really talking about the user experience, which is great. So let's do some proper introductions. So Samantha, as I said, Senior Knowledge Solutions Product Analyst. So you're a qualified attorney. You've also spent some time working as a vendor, I noticed. Can you tell me just a tiny bit about your role now, in terms of what you do?
Yes, so I work at Morgan Lewis in the knowledge solutions portion of the knowledge management program. I work on implementing firm-wide solutions. So in this case, all the attorneys and legal staff use Lexsoft. I've worked on projects such as relaunching our intranet, experience search, etc. So in terms of using Lexsoft, we use it by having practice groups identifying high-value work product that is stored in an easily accessible, centralized workspace. At our firm, we have over 100 million documents in our document management system. So it's not the easiest to search through for keywords to make sure that information is current. So the knowledge bank helps us identify documents that are vetted and that are current. And quite honestly, the search is quite easy in the knowledge bank compared to our DMS, because you could search by certain metadata fields that the attorneys find helpful. And the keyword searching is highly valuable. Most importantly, Lexsoft and T3 has the privacy and ethical walls in place, so people shouldn't be seeing documents that they shouldn't be seeing. T3 is one of the more successful projects at our firm because the value add is obvious. We always prepare, every time we launch to a practice group, we have a pilot practice area. So they collect their documents, they had their practice group tags that are, let's say, bespoke to their practice. So when we roll out to the practice group at large, everyone could play with it and they could actually see the value and how easy the search is and how great we really do love this product.
That's awesome. Gosh, I can see what Carlos's face. That is great endorsement. Sorry, just to be clear, you use iManage.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's worth spelling that out. We're going to be talking a lot about the integration between Lexsoft and iManage. And then Carlos, I don't think you need much introduction, and I'm not going to do the murdering surname again because I assured you that I would not. But so needless to say, you've been CEO since 2015 of Lexsoft. You were previously managing director of Ticket in Spain, and you've been in legal tech for a long time.
Yes, I guess it's been almost 20 years already.
Yeah, and we're really excited because you've literally really recently launched T3 SaaS and your new GenAI product. So I'm really looking forward to seeing a demonstration. I think the way this will go for people listening in, so we're going to get down to the demo now. Just for anybody, it takes too long for people to come in, so I'm just going to repeat just the beginning bit just to make sure everybody's on board. So enable your chat. I can see a lot of people are already saying where you're from. as Carlos does the demo to Samantha, please feel free to ask your own questions. Samantha's going to be asking questions. I'll be asking questions. And then at the end, we'll come round to your questions. So this is going to be really interactive. And I'm really looking forward to the demo too. So Carlos, are you happy to take it away?
Absolutely, whenever you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me share my screen first. And okay, there we go. And okay, so you see my screen, I hope.
Yeah.
And well, first of all, for the first time, people that have seen that are going to look into T3, just a little bit of a background. T3 is a knowledge management tool that is fully integrated within iManage. So everything that you're going to see today is live, by the way. It's in cloudimanage.com, running right now. It's also in T3 SaaS, so T3 in the cloud too, and is working also. I'm going to see it at the end how it works with Insight Plus for the search part of it, which is, as you know, the knowledge search engine that iManage has. So first thing is first, when we saw GenAI about a year ago, well, we thought that was going to be, you know, very important in IT and especially in legal tech. So we start thinking, how can we use GenAI, but how can we use it from a knowledge management point of view? And we gave it a lot of thinking, and probably that's the reason this GenAI solution is a little bit different than the other ones that you maybe seen in the market. Because what we ask ourselves is, how can we help from the Lexsoft point of view? And of course, in Lexsoft, we've been doing knowledge management projects for, I don't know, 18, 19 years already. So we really understand what a PSL or a knowledge professional is thinking when he or she gets a document in, and the first things that you ask yourself, which is, okay, what's the document type? What practice area does this come from? Who is the person sending me this document? Is it a junior? Is it a senior? Is a partner? So all of those things, and based on that, we decided to build our solution. So let me go into actually a demo of what we mean by this. So of course, I mean, we all know iManage Work 10, and I'm working in this Procter & Gamble matter, the buyout of Unilever, and I have this fantastic share purchase agreement that I want to submit into my knowledge area. So the only thing I have to do as a lawyer is just to click on submit. And of course, you're going to notice that everything happens within iManage. So of course, you know, I have the ability to change the title. I can add some comments. And I can select the document type. And this is the first thing that is important. I'm going to say, for the sake of it, that this is a journal. And everything that is going to happen here is what we call conditional forms. So based on different logic that we have behind it, actually, we are going to populate what metadata fields you need to classify this document. So if it's a journal, you know, maybe a summary, document language, that's about it. But of course, this is a search purchase agreement. So we're really talking about a contract. And you will notice that if I select the contract, of course, I'm going to get a summary, but I'm also going to get the parts, the contract date, document language, jurisdiction. I can have here, you know, based on those conditional forms, as much data as I need. Actually, what I'm generating is the metadata areas in which you will add your information. But of course, you know, as a lawyer, I'm doing this submission, and I'm a very busy lawyer, and I don't have time to fill up, you know, all of this metadata. So I'm just going to click on next. I get an overview, click on publish. That's about it. That's the only thing that I have to do. So I forget about it, you know. And for the first timers in T3, what we're doing right now is we're making a copy of this document that is in the active library where the lawyers are working, and we copying that document into a knowledge library that, by the way, is also in iManage. So for PSLs and knowledge professionals, again, this is also in iManage. What we have here is a a knowledge workspace. We can have as many knowledge workspace as we need. And of course, they have we have this in its own library, in a US library that we have here. And if I come to my inbox, what has happened is that I just received this search purchase agreement. So as a knowledge professional, first thing I'm going to look into is, okay, let me see how this document is classified. And of course, the lawyer hasn't added anything. So as you may notice, I don't have any selected taxonomies. But if I come to my metadata here, well, first thing I'm going to notice is that I have a fantastic summary, and I will explain the summary here in a little bit. I also have the parts. I also have, of course, the language, the contract date, the jurisdiction. I know that it's a contract. And if I was to run into my summary, I realize that my summary is extremely well done. Why is this? What we do when we start thinking about GenAI, as I was telling you, first thing we thought is, okay, we need to understand how a PSL works, but we know that. So what we did is, okay, let's start using GenAI to make really big prompts to get really, small pieces of information, like the parts, or like the jurisdiction, or like the language of the document. And based on that, we are going to be using all of that information that we're getting from all of those questions that underneath we ask in the document to obtain a bunch of data that we're going to reuse to prompt the document again to get my summary. So of course, if I was to say, create a summary of this document, it will be so-so. But if I say create a summary of a document that is a legal contract, that is a legal contract between Microsoft and Lexsoft, that is under this jurisdiction, that is on this language. Language is super important in GenAI. We will get very different results if we ask a document in Spanish or in English or in German. So we have to be very careful on that. So with all of that, what we start doing, of course, is to start creating a library of functions for, to be able to use that conditional logic. So let me just go back and run a couple of examples real quick here. I'm going to run another contract in Spanish. So just bear with me for a second. I'm just going to send it through so you see exactly how it looks. Okay, I'm going to say this is a contract, of course, and I'm going to say contrato, which is how we say it in Spanish. And again, just click it through. Don't do anything else to the document. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bear with me for a sec here. Okay, and the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this example NDA, and I'm going to send this NDA here. Please note that because it's an NDA, my conditional logic is going to be completely different, and it's going to ask me for completely different information. So when I come here and I just click on non-disclosure agreement, when I come here to next, I have boxes for confidential information definition, for obligation of confidentiality, prohibition, permissions, the parts, the NDA dates. So we have really worked in all of these document types and all the information that we needed to actually create really good models. So again, I'm not going to do anything with it. Just going to push them forward, and let me show you how they look when we go back into my inbox. Yes, this takes a little second. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to come to my inbox, and I'm first going to look at my contract in Spanish. And of course, as you can imagine, when I click on classified, you're going to see that all of the information that I have here is in Spanish. By the way, T3 works in multilingual, and all of the things that you see written here, it will be written in Spanish, it will be talking in Spanish. So I can see that actually it's very well, the summary is really well made here, also in Spanish, the parts are in Spanish. Commonwealth de Australia is not of Australia in this case because it's in Spanish. So everything is in Spanish, everything is fine. Let me show you how my NDA looks, which is also quite cool. Again, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to save a lot of time for the PSLs and for the knowledge professionals. If you notice, I have my summary of this NDA, my confidential information. I have all of my obligation confidentiality, all my prohibitions, permissions. I don't have an exclusivity clause in this particular NDA. So really, really, really nice how it works. But you have been seeing, all along while I was navigating this, that I have my taxonomies empty. If we're talking about knowledge management, we're talking about legal taxonomies. Legal taxonomies are absolutely mandatory when we're doing knowledge management. So, okay, I'm going to say, hey, T3, why don't you go ahead and using my taxonomies, analyze this document and tell me, do any of your taxonomies actually apply to this document? Because I don't want to use SALI taxonomies or general taxonomies. I want to use the taxonomies that I have defined within my firm, because actually I have spent a lot of time doing that. So, and that reflects really well how my firm looks. So when I come here, I realize that, yeah, wait a minute, yeah, I found, some information that actually applies really, really good to this document. So I'm just going to save this information here. Clicking on save, where I'm doing some pushing all of this information into a document, and then it's going to be searchable upon all of this data. Okay, but I also get some of the data here that I got from from my AI system, and let's say that in this particular case, I want to say, okay, every time that I get a share purchase agreement here, I don't know, I'm just going to say this. Well, I want you to classify it under civil law, and this will be corporation, and it will be, I don't know, corporation. Let me add it here. And you will notice that actually, I can create relationships and I can keep improving my model. Now, this model is actually built on the T3 side of things. So this only applies to your firm. This is specifically for your firm. Let me explain a little bit on what we're doing, behind the scenes. And let me just take, small parentheses around all of this to try to tell you what we're doing. So what we're doing is we're working with Microsoft OpenAI. But of course, we know that many of the firms that we work with, you're already doing things with Microsoft. So we don't want to get in the middle, in between your relationship with Microsoft, your tenants, and so on, and what we do in knowledge management. So actually, what we have prepared is a white paper in which we will tell you, okay, these are the things that you need to ask Microsoft in order to have your OpenAI tenant. So that will be your tenant, nobody else's. So everything happens within your single tenancy. So of course, risk and compliance is again, fully compliant. Nevertheless, the idea here is that we're going to give you a white paper saying, okay, you can use ChatGPT 3.5 or 4.0 or whatever. We're going to tell you these are the things that are necessary. You choose which ones you want. And of course, you control your own payments into Microsoft, because we all know that OpenAI is absolutely great, but it's not precisely cheap. So the idea here, what we have seen all the way up until now, is that what we can do from the T3 point of view is to take a bunch of effort away from the knowledge professionals, and instead of the classical work, which will be to open your document on one side and start classifying, selecting information, copying it back and forth, looking for the taxonomies, selecting different taxonomies, we can automate all that. And now what we're asking PSLs and knowledge professionals to do is review what you have in your document and make sure that it actually matches. We're in the first year of GenAI. We know for sure that it's going to be better and better and better. And probably in a couple of years' time, we are not going even to need to review it. Right now, we still need to review it. The difference is from an hour and a half to 10 minutes. That's the amount of savings that we want to have. By the way, I was telling you just a second ago that of course this is fully integrated with Insight Plus. So I'm just going to search, I don't know, for Microsoft. I have here this search. I'm just searching Insight Plus. This is all live, by the way. This is all happening in real time. So I come in here to my my NDA, to my Microsoft NDA. And if you notice, everything that I have in here is all the information that I got when I was doing actually the OpenAI extraction. You know, if I come here to my mini summary, you know, I have the information about the document. So it actually works really, really nice. Of course, another thing that you can do is to search for all the metadata that you need. And I'm sure that you have seen inside Plus. You can apply your filters. You can do, you know, anything that you want. Works really fine. Is by all means our recommendation for searching. Okay, so this is part of the things that we have done. But of course, in our offering, you know, GenAI is very important. But we also start thinking on how else can we help PSLs and professional supervisors and knowledge professionals. And of course, you know, back in 2012, I recall, what we defined was what will be the proper workflows that we needed to have in knowledge management that we could actually implement in iManage, you know. And we came out with something like this, you know, with your inbox, review. I mean, you don't need to have all of the steps. Of course, you can select how many steps and outcomes you want it, review, then you're going to publish, which is where actually Insight is going to be searching. You have your old versions, you have your archive, you have your rejected documents, all of that. And this is what we did in 2012. Today's standard. Today, pretty much most of the vendors that work in knowledge management, they're using this type of workflows over in the different tools. But we thought, okay, you know, this is very old. At the end of the day, we have created alerts, so you can get an email every time something comes into one of the inboxes that you are overlooking. I would say, I think we could do better. So we have been working also for this past year in T3 Analytics. And let me explain a little bit. I mean, analytics, of course, started to create, you know, knowledge bank analytics. You know, was, I don't know, contributed documents, make contents, what are the taxonomies not used. This is actually a fantastic report. Of course, this is a demo system. I have a lot of taxonomies that are not being used. But when you don't use a taxonomy, it's because probably you went too far, too deep into the definition, or you don't have any documents associated with that taxonomy. So you can be proactive and say, hey, labor law managing partner, could you give me documents on this particular topic because we don't have any? So it's actually a great report that we have. I don't know, how long does it take for a document to go from inbox to publish time? It was all very static. Of course, we had information on search, all of that. But what really we thought that we needed to do is we need to give PSLs a place for them to work. And we call it, by the way, my knowledge management workplace, in which I have defined all of my pending tasks. What are my pending tasks as a knowledge professional? Of course, you know, all of the newly received documents, everything that are in any of the inboxes that I could be responsible of. You know, you can see that I have a bunch of different documents here. I can, of course, sort it by day, by document, by the workspace, or by the knowledge workspace, of course. So, you know, all of the new things that we just received, all of the things that are under final revision, because I'm a senior knowledge manager. So in this case, you know, I have, you know, different documents that are under revision that are the previous step before they get published. But also, and this is super important, is, hey, why don't you tell me in advance what documents are due to review because they have passed the curation date? So this is super important. I don't know if you noticed when we were publishing documents that automatically we assign a curation date. So, okay, this document is relevant for the next 18 months, for the next 2 years, for 1 year, for 10 years, for whatever you decide. Actually, you can make changes during the all publication process. But of course, what we are going to give you is a real-time report in which all of the department could be working at the same time. If we were to send you an email, that will become obsolete because there will be new documents coming in and documents coming out. If you work in real time, that's always, you know, current information. Let me work a little bit with this. So what we decided to do here, I'm going to use the Spanish one for the sake of it. What we decided to do here is, okay, from this single place, I can do all of the actions. Of course, you know, if I want to open up my document and if I want to do a preview of my document, whatever, you know, very, very simple to do. Just one click, you know, this is still iManage. But from here, I can go ahead and directly open up my classification of this document. So I have all of the information about this document. I have all of my metadata. I have all of my everything that I need from this particular document. But also, if I need to send it into the next step of the workflow, so in this case, it will be actually to publish the document because this is the final review. With a single click, just by doing continue here, what I'm saying is from this screen, I'm actually doing all of the work, all of the tasks. Important thing for this is only related to me. So this is something that automatically I can do for Carlos Garcia. I don't need to, I can organize all of the tasks for all of the people within the knowledge department by countries, by jurisdictions, by languages, by practice areas, whatever you guys want. So pretty much, this is what I want to tell you about today. Oh, by the way, you have the ability to create your own reports. You have, all types of graphics. You can create your own dashboards. Not only reports, but you can actually have your own dashboards here. If you want to do something different, it's fully configurable from one single place. You don't need Power BI license. It's all part of the T3 product. So super simple. At the end of the day, this is what we wanted to talk to you about today. What we wanted to tell you is, okay, we are using all of the conditional logic to make sure that we only ask you relevant questions. We're using GenAI in a super smart way, so we're getting good results, because if you just start asking things to a document, you get lost. I mean, it's nice, it's good too when you ask to a document, but when we know exactly what we expect or what we need from a particular document, we should just pinpoint it. We can automate all of that. And finally, we want to give you a new place to work, a new place in which knowledge professionals can have, all of the different tasks, all of the different things that they need to do. And that's my presentation today. I hope it didn't take too long.
That was great. Thank you for that, Carlos. Are you okay to, Samantha, are you okay to just jump in and ask some questions? And I guess, Carlos, you might need to go back in the demo depending on the question. So I might ask a few questions after Samantha.
Yeah, before I ask my questions, do you mind if I give my initial reactions as a user of the product?
Absolutely.
It's funny because when you first submitted when I saw the extra fields, I had a visceral panic reaction because it's hard to get attorneys to even fill out like the minimal fields we have now. So to see you just like submitting it like without any thinking, that's a huge sell, like a really positive sell to our users, because right now we say, oh, it takes less than a minute, but if it takes like less than 10 seconds to just submit, you don't have to think. That's great. That's something that we want our attorneys to realize, that they don't really need to think much when they're just submitting the document. Just give us the content and then the technology will do the rest. Also that I really liked is the analytics workflow from a training perspective for the administrators of each practice group. It's not going into the original folders isn't the clearest workflow, but now that we have it in one really visually appealing dashboard, it's really helpful to see what their tasks are, like having those buttons to be like, send it to them, to release it, or having this like temporal reminder of this visual temporal reminder of like when things need to be seen. That's really helpful. It's incredibly helpful to see what tags aren't being used, because in our case, practice groups love to get very granular, and it gets a little hard to manage when they get that granular. To see like having data to say this isn't being used is very helpful as well. And the fact that the taxonomy is automatic too, with the practice group tags, that we have an issue. We kind of remind submitters that there's like human error involved. So you might not tag it correctly, but now that it does it automatically, that's really helpful. Then we could have like, by all means, we try to keep it to like under 10 per practice area. Like by all means, come up with more tags because it's automatic. You don't have to scroll and hope that you find the one that's applicable. So that being said, I do have some questions.
Let me just make a small comment there, Samantha. You notice that the only thing that we really ask the lawyer to do is the document type for this particular one. Of course, if you're using iManage Classify, the new AI product that iManage is coming out with that actually auto-classifies by document type, you don't even need to do that. It will be one single click. That's the only thing you need to do from a lawyer point of view to submit, because everything could happen in the background. Of course, we show it to you graphically, so you actually get the impact of the demo. But you don't really need to do or to ask the lawyer to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And please go ahead and ask.
That is the ideal situation, isn't it? Yeah, so it's in considering that it's based off document type. Is that able to be customizable for the client? Because, for example, say I want the fields to change according to practice group and practice area, would that be possible?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so for this example, we took like the easiest way out, which is document type. Everybody understands really well. But of course, we're using all of the information that we have from the DMS, plus the information that we're getting from all of those prompts. So one thing that you haven't seen, because it happened in the background, of course, if I know that this document comes from an M&A practice area, where I'm going to concentrate my taxonomies is in M&A.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to start asking about task or about labor. So all of the conditional logic is actually happening in the background, using many different pieces of information. Same thing, if I know that the person that has to meet this is a partner, probably I don't need to be so careful reading the document to make sure that it's a good document. It comes from a partner. I know it's going to be a good document. Maybe it comes from a much junior person. I have to dedicate a bit more time to really dig into it and understand it. So yeah, absolutely, all of that is fully customizable.
Great. So for the fields that you demoed, where did those come from? Was that like assuming that the client came up for that? Does the Lexsoft offer those at first, and then we customize from there? Like, how does that building that?
Super great question. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the work that we have been doing for the past 6 months, which is to analyze different document types and to start extracting information. The idea here is that when you get T3 GenAI, what you're going to have is a library of functions already there that you just need to apply them. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to apply them. You have them there and you say, okay, no, based on my experience, really, I don't need jurisdiction, but I really need the contract value. Let's put, I mean, we can go into different things. Now, what we're going to give you is a library of very well thought processes, both of the conditional logic to create the metadata fields, and then all of the GenAI prompting in the proper order with all of the logic to actually be able to fill up those blanks. But it will be up to you if you want to use our standard that's already built in, or you want to actually tweak it, fine tune it.
So I know that the idea is that once you submit, the attorney doesn't have to think to submit. But in my case, some practice groups prefer to have certain language in their summary field for their documents. So what happens if a user fills out some of the fields on the submission form and then submits? Does the AI override it, or does it keep the?
It will certainly keep. I mean, if somebody has actually added something before time, we know. I mean, we assume that information comes from a human, so it's better. I mean, we're always going to assume that anything that comes from a human is better than whatever GenAI could give us. Now, nevertheless, fully configurable too. But if I was doing this for my firm, by all means, if somebody has already filled in a blank, we shouldn't ask the OpenAI to give us results.
Okay, great. So with the AI, I didn't see in your demo. So in my firm's current fields are drop downs. Can AI also pick up certain instead of just doing this generative word type of values? Just can it pick up on drop down values as well?
Yeah, no. It's yeah. I mean, we have. I mean, all of the standard forms that we had in the past, with the different drop downs and drop downs in the different levels. All of that is still available. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to simplify it as much as possible. That's the reason we went for such a clean interface with such little questions. Of course, you have like always in T3, you have your keywords, your drop downs, your short text, your long text, your dates, your booleans, your links, your URLs. Super important to have URLs so you can relate to external documents or to other documents within iManage. Yeah, I mean, all of that you have, like always. But it's just that we try to keep it really, really clean and simple because we think that we can finally make it simple.
And then, so I do have one last question. So I saw that in order to see the fields, you have to submit an acknowledgement. The way that we see it now as a user, for T3 now, before you submit, you could check the fields and their values. So if I'm an attorney and I submit it, but I noticed a field isn't exactly have the value I want, would that have to be changed by the admin in this Work 10 admin view, or as an attorney can I change it myself?
Okay, so yeah, absolutely. Of course, I mean, what we're going to try to do, and this is based on simplicity, or make it simple, is to have a standard way of doing things. So if one of your attorneys realize that instead of parties they want to have buyer and seller, let's say that could be an example. Yeah, I mean, what you will need to do is you will need to ask your PSLs or your knowledge professionals in this case, and say, please update this. So next time it happens, you could have, and based on practice area, maybe, for some practice areas you want buyer and seller because it really makes a big difference. And let's go back to the M&A deal. Maybe for other things, for an NDA, you don't need to have, you just have parties. You don't actually need to have that differentiation. So yeah, absolutely. You will need to ask into the knowledge department. You can make the changes there, and then next time it will be as you like it. So we still have to do a little bit of implementation. I'm sorry, but it's a little bit of work is still needed, but in the background, from the IT guys and from the knowledge professional guys.
Yeah, great. It looks great.
Those
it's exciting.
Great questions. Thank you for that. And then by all means, continue to ask questions as we go. Thanks for that, Carlos, as well. I had a question that someone has asked, and so I'm going to prioritize my question that someone's asked, but I'm going to read their question because they phrased it better. And it's around respecting security and ethical rules. So it's to everyone, so I'm just going to say the name. So Kat Freeman, it's really nice to see you here. I may have missed this earlier. Did you say that with the integration, T3 will follow all security and ethical rules in each workspace, etc.? So if I was working on a matter that had an ethical rule, I could still submit to the knowledge bank, but only I and those with access could see the document. I must admit, this was one of the areas that I was wondering about. That's a great question. And what's your sort of thoughts, Carlos?
Yeah, let's talk about security for a bit. Yeah, of course. I mean, this has been mandatory in knowledge management forever. So it's something that we had for a long time. And Samantha knows this really well because this is how we do it in her firm. Yeah, absolutely. If we are submitting something that we already have an ethical rule applied to it, of course, we need to make sure that when it gets into the knowledge management space, is also respected. So if only certain people can see certain documents within the active library of the lawyer, that same logic should happen also in the knowledge from the knowledge point of view. So I mean, you don't want a junior person that is just doing I don't know, it's been only 3 months within the firm getting to review documents that are highly sensible before we actually redact them or before we actually anonymize them. So yeah, I mean, of course, by all means.
That's great. I don't know, Sam, by all means, coming from a user perspective, I know obviously not necessarily the GenAI stuff, but and then another really interesting question. So is it able to deal with bilingual documents? I know you've dealt with language, but they're talking about one half of the document in English and one in Spanish.
Oh no, I mean the way we deal about that is to have them related. So one of the functionalities that has been also in T3 and is part of iManage, of course, related documents, you all know them. But what we do is when we need to relate documents among themselves is very simple. Actually, with the new Work 10 functionalities, well, we have 2 ways of relating documents. One is the standard iManage way, but the other one is by using URLs. So let's say that I have a document in English and I also have it in Spanish. So I can have it. I can have that relationship within my classification. And actually, when I come into my insight, that will appear here. The same way that I can have information in different links. So that's actually quite common. What we're talking about. So.
And then I'm prioritizing other people's questions. So because you know, if anyone else has got questions, please add them. It's really great to have your involvement. So can I ask, so you have the data loaded into the knowledge management system, which is great. How do we use the knowledge for querying the data? For example, a partner in my firm wants to have a tender draft designed from previous drafts. Is this possible? And if so, how?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for all of that, what we're going to use for all my querying is Insight Plus. Insight Plus, I don't know how well the audience know it. Is an iManage tool, fantastic iManage tool that came out last summer, and that has the ability to deal with absolutely, all of this information. So I can query, I can search for anything I want, I can filter it, I can apply, all type of facets. Let me clear my filter so you get more information here. So I can pretty much do anything I want. Of course, we are at the very beginning of Insight Plus. New things are going to start coming out, in order to search your matters, in order to search other non-created documents. So a lot of new things coming out. And one of the great things that we have seen already in the demo systems of Insight Plus is the ability to summarize multiple documents with citations. So you can do a vector, well, it's called vectorized indexing, which is what the OpenAI is using to actually create very complex answers based on multiple documents at once. So yeah, by all means, use iManage Insight Plus. Great tool to search for your information after you have pushed it into your knowledge workspaces.
Could you have in your KM the same document twice? For example, a redacted version available to everyone and a non-redacted version for those professionals who are working on that matter?
Okay, so many years back, we started introducing a module called T3 Redact. Redaction is being mandatory in knowledge management forever, for many reasons, and GDPR and data protection rules is one of them, of course. So in terms of redaction, there's many ways that we can approach it. We can do a manual redaction. We can just put it as a part of our workflow to have one step in which some humans will actually redact the document. Or we can use many of the redaction tools that are available. T3 has a redaction tool, but there are many more of them. And of course, one of the things that you can do is to keep your version 1 unredacted, and then version 2, version 3, whatever version that you're actually going to have published, to have it redacted. And let me stop here, because there are two ways of thinking. In some cases, and especially we're going to use technology to redact. What we're going to do is we're going to do it on the fly. So actually, the document that we received in the knowledge department is already redacted from the very beginning of it. That way, we don't need those ethical walls that we were talking earlier, because it's already coming redacted. Other way of thinking is, no, just send it to me as it is. We will redact it here using technology or not. One more thing about redaction. When we talk about redaction, we are not talking about blacking out things like we used to do back in the day. So right now, what technology allows us to do is to, the concept is, the name is a little bit strange. It's called pseudo-anonymization. So actually what it does is, whenever it finds Carlos García-Egocheaga, it will replace it by John Doe. Whenever it finds a Lexsoft system, it will replace it by Acme. But it will always replace it by the same term. This is very important, because when you read a redacted document, it maintains readability. If you just blacken out things, you don't know if it's talking about part 1, part 2, if it's talking about the mean itself. So when we're talking about redaction, the new technologies that we have there are fantastic. And one more spoiler for you all, redaction works really well 95% of the times. So that's what we have seen. So it's a great help. It's not perfect yet, but it's great help. And there are many firms, many companies doing great redaction tools in, I would say, most of the languages worldwide right now.
Thank you. There's a second part to that question, which I think I'm going to message to you. It's a slightly more technical one, but I think because in light of time, but thank you so much for that question. There's two questions. The one that's actually the person who asked first, who it was a more general, so I thought I'd leave that, but I'll come back to that now, which is where would you say AI has the most value in the T3 product? And then someone's also just asked, is T3 GenAI ready to be implemented with Insights Plus now? And if not, what's the timescale and roadmap? So maybe you could just take those sort of together, although they're sort of only tangentially.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, this is, as I said, this is a live system. What GenAI is allowing us to do to all of us, it's not to Lexsoft, it's not to iManage, it's not to Microsoft. I'm talking about to all of the technological companies, is to start using it and start getting things out of it. Pretty much, we all have the same basic building blocks. Now, the problem with GenAI, or what we have seen after a year of having a complete team of people working on it, is that it's not as simple as it seems. So you cannot go ahead and just prompt it or do something really quick because it's not going to work. What you need to do is you need to take it step by step. You need to make sure that you do really large prompts to get really small pieces of information. Then is when it works fine. Also, what we're seeing right now in OpenAI is that, of course, you have the different ChatGPTs, but you also have models that you can apply. So let's say that you want to actually extract information out of the contract. There's a model specialized in English contracts and it works extremely well. Now, every time you run it, it's going to cost you, I think it's $1. But, it's something that is there and it's going to help you out. So what T3 benefits from GenAI is that it gives us the ability to fill up all of the blanks that we have when we submit a document. So instead of asking a professional support lawyer to actually fill up those blanks, what we're asking them right now is to review it. So the amount of time that it saves is huge. Mm-hmm. Now, compared to Insight Plus, we're using the same technology, Insight Plus and T3, which is OpenAI at the end of the, well, sorry, Insight Plus uses on the top of that also other proprietary technologies of iManage for other products. But when we're looking at Insight Plus, at the end of the day, what we're looking at is about, all of the things that you can do with OpenAI. And of course, using Power Automate blocks, you can build it yourself and you can do, a great, fantastic results. Now, the problem is always the same. Is you can build it yourself, spend 6 times building it. You can buy it done, click it on. That's pretty much the only answer I can do. But by all means, Insight Plus has huge amount of capabilities. Fantastic product. We're super excited about that.
So just to be clear, so it's ready. So T3 it's ready to deploy now, right? Like anyone could literally, yeah, fine. So that's an answer to that. Okay, that's great. In terms of, do you mind if I?
Hold on, Caroline, let me just say something real quick.
Yeah.
The whole point of T3 is actually to feed information for Insight Plus. So if you were to ask me what are the differences, I'll say that T3 is Insight Plus best friend, because
so,
what it does,
this has been
complements. Yeah, it complements Insight Plus to be able to automatize all of that submission, all of that curation, all of that data acquisition, all of those metadata fields built in, super easy. But it's a tool that it complements Insight Plus.
So sorry to interrupt.
It doesn't replace it by no means.
Yeah, no. I struggled with that myself, and thought, where are the overlaps? And sometimes at first glance, it almost feels like you're doing the same thing or even competing. When I was first thinking about it, I was thinking, well, you sort of have to take a bit of a deeper dive to understand. But actually, it seems to be quite, so Insight Plus obviously has amazing search capability. What you're doing is helping with the almost like the preparation to make it more discoverable. Is that a fair summary? So you're making sure that, but instead of a lawyer, I always use this example. which is we hear about firms where they've just got a drop down of what type of law it is, and they're doing agriculture, you know, because that's the first thing that appears on the list, because lawyers are super lazy and they just click that first option, and then you can find firms that are going, we don't do agriculture. You know, it makes up for as an ex-lawyer, I think I can say this, you know, sort of our certain deficiency, we're a bit lazy, right? And actually what you're doing, and I mean, Samantha, chip in by all means, you know, the time I can appreciate as a former lawyer who really couldn't be bothered with this sort of stuff either. You know, the time saving involved is pretty immense. I did wonder.
It's not lazy, it's that you are really busy.
Really busy, thank you. Yes. But do you think, I mean, just in terms, and someone said is Insight Plus available to purchase now? Yes, I can answer that from iManage. But so the accuracy, you talked about the supervision, right? So we know that this is a journey. We're not, and I know OpenAI are already talking about the next version, GPT-5. It's getting better, but right now for teams thinking, okay, I can deploy T3 GenAI, how much? So talk about the accuracy. So obviously you've said supervision is required, but what are you seeing in terms of accuracy levels and how much supervision right now?
Well, in the examples that we have seen, very, very high, because actually we're going for big points of information. That's part of understanding GenAI, and that's what I've been trying to explain in the presentation. That it's not just to ask a question, it's in what order and how much information you're using to ask that question. So you all heard about prompting engineering, and it's called engineering because it's very difficult, because it's not simple to actually prompt GenAI to get the specific information that you need. That's where we have to spend most of the time, just making sure that the way we did the prompting, that the way we built the whole solution, get us accurate results. Because at first the results were really stunning. You know, we're like, wait a minute, you know, this is not right. And what we've managed to do now is to actually get, you know, to a decent point in which we feel fairly comfortable with it. Nevertheless, as I said, first year of GenAI, give us a couple of more years. Now, if you start today, probably you're going to get savings. Now, in 2 years' time, this is going to be mandatory for everybody. I mean, nobody's going to think in going into knowledge management without applying GenAI.
So, I mean, are you getting, Samantha, are you getting that in terms of, you know, obviously the time saving is going to be huge, but are you sort of on the receiving end yet of sort of client demand to do things faster, or not really because you're not charging? If that question makes any sense.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know it's just like this is non-billable work that takes from your day. So when we do try to get sell this product and see show its utility, it's always like, what is this initial lift to have these documents in? And you know, for us, it's like without GenAI, we're just trying to limiting the amount of information they can tag it by, as opposed to now, just submit it. You know, and let it do its thing, which is, I think that's going to be huge. And I think that sort of thing would get lawyers excited.
Yeah. And what do you make of the taxonomy? I must be honest with you, taxonomies are an area where, I mean, I've written about Sally, and I've talked to Damien Real, and I've, you know, for some reason it's an area that I always sort of mentally struggle with. But can we do a bit of a deeper dive, because to what extent, so we, you know, this is an area that firms have been struggling with for a long time, you know, to what extent do you think, either of you or both of you, that this will help? Perhaps you know, Samantha, you had quite lots of questions, but perhaps your reaction on the taxonomy point specifically, to what extent do you think that that this will help achieve some of the things that perhaps Sally has been trying to achieve, or perhaps even would it even replace some of the stuff that they've been trying to achieve? Carlos, maybe that's a you question. I don't know, actually, because I'm asking.
I do have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
No, my opinion is that it's, first of all, Sally is a fantastic initiative, and they've done great, absolute great work. Now, nevertheless, when we talk with law firms, what we realize is that they have their own way of doing business, that they concentrate on practice areas more than others. So sometimes you don't need, you know, especially when we go into practice area, you don't need to go as deep, you know. Maybe in criminal law, you know, you just have, you know, very, very small information. While in civil rights, you can go as deep as you want, because that's what your firm specializes on. So each firm is different. Of course, you know, we always tell firms not to go too deep into definitions of taxonomies. Probably with 4 levels is more than enough. And if you talk to one of the gurus for me, who is Jack Sepper, who is the guy that knows most about taxonomy building, by all means, you know, I mean, each firm will have their own specific topics that they want to address in a more deep way. Sally is fantastic, and it's a reference for all of us. So yeah.
I suppose this doesn't go towards the excuse me, standardization. I suppose this is very much a firm by firm, you know, it means that it's quite specific to the firm, as opposed to, I suppose, Sally's trying to create this sort of more generic terminology or taxonomy.
Okay.
Yeah, because it also helps with attorney buy-in too, because if they could tag things the way they want to do it, they're more they have more neck in the game, you know what I mean? So and as Carlos was saying, firms to kind of do what they do. And honestly, attorneys are like toddlers. You want them to give a choice, so they feel like as opposed to imposing something on them, you like give them the freedom of choice, and then they're more interested.
That's interesting. Yeah, I suppose with all the will in the world, you know, to try and make it so.
let me give you an example, Caroline.
Actually, what I just want to say, Carlos, so the only thing I just observed, I don't want to start people to have to jump before we say goodbye. So we've got 2 minutes, but so just if you don't mind being super quick, and then unfortunately we have to wrap up. But please, please show by all means.
No, what I was going to say is that in 18 years of implementing this in law firms, you know, we see always a taxonomy. I don't think nobody has ever used it. They always have their own taxonomy. So yeah, I mean, but they still, I mean, we send a taxonomy through. Yeah, why not a standard one? But everybody was going to change it. But please, Caroline, I mean, if there's, I don't know, maybe time for one more question. Or
I don't know. What do you think? Yes, I'm sure there is. Does anyone have a question that Samantha, did you have any? I've got loads of questions, but does anyone else have one? I think everybody's, to be honest with you, Carlos, I think we've got like 2 minutes. I'm not sure that we've got time, apart from just to wrap up. And perhaps if you've enjoyed the session and you've got any further questions that you want to ask, by all means, you can message me or our newsroom, and we'll divert questions to Samantha or to Carlos. We're just newsroom@legaltechnology.com. But it's been great to have your involvement and your participation, and just want to say thank you so much, Carlos. I really love that demonstration, and it's a really unusual format. I haven't had a webinar before where I've listened to somebody else doing the questioning, and which was great. So Samantha, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and it's really great to have your perspective. Carlos, thanks for the demo and for answering all of our questions. And thank you, everyone saying thank you in the chat. We will be sharing the recording with you, and we'll be circulating it widely, so it will be available, and we'll make sure that you can find it. But suffice to say, thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't do one more question, Carlos. It's great to have everybody here today.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Super thanks, Samantha. Super thanks for participating on this. Thanks a lot, Caroline. It's been absolutely great.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, thanks, everyone.